Let me tell you something that most people will never admit: confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And the truth is, the world doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It moves fast. And if you don't step up with conviction, life will choose for you. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not loud. It's not fake. It's quiet, steady power. It's knowing who you are before anyone else does. Confidence is the key. Not a key, the key. And once you own it, no door is ever truly closed again. Every person has a story. A journey filled with victories, yes, but also mistakes, heartbreaks, and dark moments that we sometimes wish we could erase. But here's the truth no one wants to face: the parts of your story that you're ashamed of are the very pieces that carry your power. We're taught to hide the mess, to cover up the failures, to only show the highlight reel. But confidence doesn't grow in a filtered, polished version of your life. It grows when you have the courage to look at everything you've lived through and say, this is me. This is where I've been. And this is why I deserve to be here. Most people think confidence comes from achieving something impressive, from titles, money, or approval. But real confidence begins long before the applause. It starts the moment you stop running from your past and decide to own it. It starts when you stop cringing at your younger self and begin to thank them for surviving what they did. When you realize that the parts of you that once made you feel broken are actually what make you whole, everything changes. You stop shrinking in rooms filled with people who seem more together because you understand they haven't walked your road. And there's power in that. The world constantly tells us to be more successful, more perfect, more like someone else. But what if your real strength came from being exactly who you are? What if the cracks in your story weren't signs of weakness, but signs of resilience? Confidence is not about pretending you've never fallen. It's about showing up with the scars and still choosing to stand tall. It's not about erasing your story to fit someone else's definition of worthy. It's about rewriting the narrative on your terms. Because when you can look at your life with all its flaws and detours and still believe you have value that's unshakable, people will try to define you by your past. They'll try to box you into the version of yourself they're most comfortable with. But here's what they don't realize: your past didn't break you, it built you. And every time you refuse to be ashamed of what you've lived through, you take back your power. Owning your story doesn't mean you're proud of every decision. It means you're not going to let shame dictate your future. It means you're choosing to see the strength that came from the struggle, not just the pain. And when you truly own your story, something incredible happens. You become untouchable. Not in an arrogant way. Not because you're better than anyone. But because you stop needing validation to feel worthy. You stop chasing approval because you've already approved of yourself. You stop editing your truth to make other people comfortable. And you start living in a way that feels honest, raw, and real. That kind of confidence is rare. That kind of confidence shifts rooms. Not because you're loud, but because your presence is rooted in truth. So if you're still waiting for the perfect version of yourself to show up before you can feel confident, stop. That version doesn't exist. And she doesn't need to. The version of you right now, the one with the doubts, the lessons, the baggage, is more than enough. But only if you stop hiding her. Your story has already given you everything you need. Now it's your job to step into it, unapologetically. Because confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from ownership. And the day you decide to stop hiding is the day you start leading. Confidence dies in the waiting room of life. So many people are stuck there waiting. Waiting for the right time, waiting for permission. Waiting for someone to validate their worth before they take the first step. But here's the harsh truth: no one is coming to hand you the green light. Life isn't a school assignment where you raise your hand and ask for approval before speaking. Out here, in the real world, the ones who succeed are the ones who decide they belong long before anyone tells them they do. Confidence begins the moment you stop waiting and stop pouring and start acting. There's this dangerous myth we've been sold that confidence is granted. That one day someone more powerful, more successful, or more important than us will recognize our worth in you and finally give us permission to rise. That's a lie. The people who make an impact in this world don't ask for a seat at the table. They take it. Not with arrogance, but with conviction. Because deep down, they understand something most people don't. You were never meant to ask permission to be great. You were meant to be it. Not because someone said so, but because you chose to. You've been told to stay in your lane, to earn your turn, to wait until you're ready. But what if that lane was never built for you? What if the very idea of waiting is keeping you stuck in a life far smaller than what you're capable of? Confidence doesn't come from staying quiet until someone invites you to speak. It comes from using your voice even when it shakes. It comes from walking into rooms where you don't feel like you belong and deciding to belong anyway. Because the truth is, belonging is not something you're given. It's something you claim. People often confuse confidence with arrogance, but the two couldn't be more different. Arrogance is loud and insecure, it demands attention. Confidence is quiet and grounded, it holds presence. And you don't develop that kind of presence by playing small. You don't build confidence by sitting in the background, hoping someone notices your potential. You build it by stepping forward uninvited, unannounced, and saying, I'm here. I have something to give. And I'm not shrinking to make you comfortable. That's not ego. That's self-respect. That's what happens when you stop needing permission to show up fully. Think about the people you admire. The ones who inspire you. The ones who radiate power just by walking into a room. They didn't get there by waiting for someone to pick them. They didn't ask for reassurance every time they had a new idea. They acted. They moved even when they doubted themselves, even when they were terrified. They took up space not because they were the smartest or the best, but because they believed they had the right to. And belief more than talent or luck is what opens doors. Confidence begins where hesitation ends. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. That you don't need another person's approval to pursue the life you want. That you don't have to water yourself down to fit in. That you're allowed to want more. The life you want. That you don't have to water yourself down to fit in. That you're allowed to want more and you're allowed to go after it without checking in with everyone else first. Confidence isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's a decision. A decision to stop asking, am I allowed? And start declaring, I'm ready. And when you make that shift, when you stop waiting for permission and start moving with purpose, everything changes. Because confidence isn't found in the waiting. It's found in the doing. If you're serious about building real confidence, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's not a slogan, it's a requirement. Too many people are waiting for fear to disappear before they act. They think confidence will magically arrive once everything feels safe, certain, and controlled. But the truth, confidence does grow in comfort zones of dare. Growth and fear are twins. They show up together. Every time you feel that tightening in your chest, that voice whispering you're not ready, that's the exact moment you need to lean in. Because discomfort isn't a warning sign, it's a signal you're on the edge of becoming more. We've been trained to avoid anything that feels uncertain. Stay where it's familiar. Don't take risks. Don't raise your voice unless you're sure you won't be judged. But what if judgment is the very thing that shapes your strength? What if discomfort is your classroom and the lesson is your own power? Confidence doesn't show up when everything is perfectly aligned. It shows up when nothing is, and you do it anyway. When you choose courage over convenience. When you take the shot, even when your hands are shaking. Because every time you stretch beyond what's comfortable, you expand what's possible. Think about it. When was the last time you truly grew from something that felt easy? You didn't become stronger by staying safe. You became stronger when you were challenged, when you were scared, when everything in you wanted to back down, but you didn't. That's where confidence is born. Not in comfort, but in conflict. Not in stillness, but in struggle. Every uncomfortable situation is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can do hard things. That you can survive what you once thought would break you. That you can rise without a guarantee. And yes, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be messy. You might stumble. You might say the wrong thing. You might fail in front of people. But guess what? That's exactly how confidence is built. Through exposure. You don't become fearless by avoiding fear. You become fearless by walking through it over and over until it loses its power. Every time you show up when it's hard, every time you push through the discomfort, you're teaching your brain, I can handle this. That's how strength is earned. Not in theory, in action. You've probably heard the phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. But that's not just a motivational quote, it's a strategy. Because the fear doesn't go away. The difference between someone who's confident and someone who's stuck isn't that one feels less fear, it's that one chooses to move anyway. The confident person has learned to treat discomfort as a companion, not an enemy. They expect it. They welcome it. And in doing so, they take their power back. They stop waiting for life to be easy and they start becoming the kind of person who can handle the hard things. So if you're sitting there waiting for the fear to disappear before you speak up, before you try, before you step forward, understand this. Fear is part of the process. Discomfort is the gate you walk through to meet your potential. And confidence. It's what you find on the other side of that gate. But you'll never access it if you keep playing it safe. If you keep tiptoeing through life, hoping to avoid pain, you'll also avoid purpose. So lean in. Get uncomfortable. Because every time you do it, something no one can take from you. True, unshakable confidence. The loudest voice in your life isn't coming from the outside, it's the one in your head. That internal dialogue, that constant stream of thoughts running on repeat, is shaping how you see yourself, what you believe you deserve, and how far you're willing to go. Most people never realize it, but your inner voice is either your greatest ally or your worst enemy. And if you've spent years criticizing yourself, doubting your worth, or replaying every mistake, that voice has turned into a cage. Confidence doesn't start with a new job, a new body, or a new relationship. It starts with rewriting that voice. You can't speak power into the world if your internal language is rooted in shame. So many people walk around dressed in success but filled with insecurity. And it's because their inner voice is still stuck in old beliefs. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? They're better than me. Sound familiar? That's not humility, that's programming. And until you confront it, you'll always feel like you're chasing validation just to feel whole. Confidence requires a conscious, deliberate decision to change the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Because what you rehearse privately becomes how you perform publicly. Start paying attention to your self-talk. Not just when things are going well, but especially when they're falling apart. Are you speaking to yourself with compassion? Or are you tearing yourself down before the world even gets the chance? Your mind believes what it hears consistently. So if you're feeding it with doubt, every single day, don't be surprised when confidence feels out of reach. You can't insult yourself into greatness. You can't bully yourself into brilliance. Confidence is not built through self-punishment, it's built through self-respect. That doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending everything's fine when it's not. It means choosing truth over toxicity. Yes, be honest. Own your flaws. Acknowledge your mistakes. But do it with the same grace you would offer someone you love. That's the shift. Instead of saying, I always screw things up, say I made a mistake and I'm learning from it. Instead of thinking I'm not smart enough, say I'm growing and I'm figuring it out. This isn't delusion, it's discipline. It's training your mind to support your growth instead of sabotaging it. Confidence doesn't come from pretending you're perfect. It comes from building a relationship with yourself that is rooted in truth, accountability, and belief. And just like any relationship, it requires consistency. You don't build a strong inner voice overnight. You do it moment by moment, day by day, by choosing better thoughts even when the old ones feel louder. Every time you choose to reframe a limiting belief, you're laying a brick in the foundation of real, lasting confidence. Your inner world creates your outer experience. And when your thoughts are aligned with strength, your actions follow. Confidence isn't just about how you feel, it's about how you show up. And the truth is, you teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. Every time you lower your standards, every time you bite your tongue to keep the peace, every time you say yes when your soul is screaming no, you're sending a message. Not just to others, but to yourself. You're telling the world what you believe you deserve. Confidence is built in those moments when you decide you're no longer available for anything less than respect, starting with how you respect yourself. People often think confidence is about having a loud voice or a bold personality, but it's so much deeper than that. Confidence is quiet integrity. It's holding boundaries even when it makes others uncomfortable. It's walking away from situations that don't align with your values, even when it costs you something. And let's be honest, sometimes it will cost you relationships, opportunities, approval. But here's the powerful part. What you gain is worth far more. You gain self-respect. You gain clarity. You gain a deep knowing that you are no longer abandoning yourself just to belong. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're difficult. It means you're clear. It means you understand your worth and you're no longer negotiating it. That's what confident people do. They don't beg to be chosen. Let that shake you. That resistance is proof that your boundaries are working. You're disrupting the system. They were comfortable in the one where your silence served their convenience. And let's be real, if someone's love depends on your silence, it was never love. Confidence is knowing you can walk away from the wrong thing and still be whole. It's also knowing that you don't have to be accessible to everyone. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every invitation requires a yes. You don't owe your energy to people who drain it. Confidence allows you to say, I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. It allows you to prioritize your well-being without guilt. It allows you to create space between you and anything that makes you question your value. And in that space, something powerful happens. You reconnect with yourself. You remember that peace isn't passive, it's a choice. A radical, intentional choice. So many people are exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing too much for the wrong people. Confidence means doing a deep audit of your life and asking, what am I allowing that's costing me my peace? And then making the decision to remove it, even if it's uncomfortable. Because when you start honoring yourself, not just with your words, but with your actions, you stop attracting situations that require you to fight for your worth. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to stop settling. And in that decision, real, lasting confidence is born. Confidence isn't about having all the answers, it's about having the courage to keep going when you don't. The myth that confident people never doubt themselves is one of the biggest lies we've been fed. They do doubt. They do fear. But the difference is they don't let those emotions define them. They understand that confidence isn't about being fearless, it's about being brave in the face of fear. It's the decision to keep showing up even when your hands are shaking, your voice is trembling, and the path ahead is unclear. Confidence isn't a lack of fear, it's a refusal to be controlled by it. Resilience is the backbone of confidence. You want to know how confident people are made? Through failure, through rejection, through moments of total breakdown. They've been knocked down, embarrassed, criticized, but they didn't stay there. They got back up scarred but stronger. And every time they rose, they built another layer of confidence, not from success, but from survival. Confidence grows when you realize you've survived what you once thought would destroy you. When you've been through the storm and you come out standing, you don't need anyone to validate your strength. You know it because you've lived it. It's easy to feel strong when everything is going your way. But what happens when it's not? What happens when the deal falls through? When the person leaves, when life hits you in the gut with no warning? That's the moment your confidence is tested. And that's where resilience becomes your foundation. Confident people aren't confident because life has been easy for them. They're confident because they built an identity around their ability to adapt, to rebuild, to come back. Their confidence isn't built on perfection, it's built on persistence. This world will try to convince you that you're only as good as your last win. That your worth depends on your achievements, your appearance, your status. But confidence rooted in external validation is fragile. It crumbles the moment you face failure. Real confidence is internal. It's knowing that even when you fail, even when you fall short, you're still worthy, still valuable, still enough. It's the ability to separate who you are from what you do. That's not weakness, that's power. Because when your identity is grounded in resilience, you stop chasing approval and start owning your truth. Confidence also requires grace. Grace for the moments you mess up. Grace for the parts of you that are still healing. Grace for the times when your strength isn't loud but quiet. Sometimes confidence looks like walking into the room with your head held high. And sometimes it looks like staying in, protecting your peace and whispering to yourself, I'm doing the best I can. That's the part no one sees, the internal war that builds real strength. Confidence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's simply refusing to give up on yourself, even on your worst day. The most powerful people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who've never failed, they're the ones who kept. You stop chasing approval and start owning your truth. Confidence also requires grace. Grace for the moments you mess up. Grace for the parts of you that are still healing. Grace for the times when your strength isn't loud but quiet. Sometimes confidence looks like walking into the room with your head held high. And sometimes it looks like staying in, protecting your peace and whispering to yourself, I'm doing the best I can. That's the part no one sees, the internal war that builds real strength. Confidence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's simply refusing to give up on yourself, even on your worst day. The most powerful people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who've never failed, they're the ones who kept. So here's the truth, confidence is not something you're born with, it's something you build. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. Every time you speak up instead of staying silent. Every time you rise after falling. Every time you choose to believe in yourself, especially when no one else does. That's when it's built. Confidence is not loud arrogance, it's quiet power. It's knowing who you are, standing in it unapologetically and never shrinking to make others comfortable. You don't wait for permission, you don't chase approval. You decide this is who I am, and I'm enough. And when you truly believe that, nothing can shake you, not the failure, not the doubt, not the noise. Because confidence isn't the destination, it's the way you show up for yourself every single day.